Perform the indicated operation, then use a calculator to check your work. So we can see in these two problems we have two different operations to perform. We have one where we're going to be multiplying in A, and in B we're going to be subtracting. And at first glance we might get a little freaked out because these numbers are really big in the numerator and the denominator, and we're feeling like, why are they expecting me to do such hard stuff here? But if we take a closer look, notice that in this first problem where we're multiplying, the numerator of the first fraction is exactly the same as the denominator of the second fraction. And the denominator of the first fraction is exactly the same as the numerator of the second fraction. And so what we have here is a situation where there's a fraction being multiplied by its reciprocal. So let's see what's going to happen here. Remember to always look for common factors before we multiply straight across. So here we have the 142 with the 142. That's, of course, the greatest common factor because that's going to go into itself. So what we're going to do is if we think about each of these as 142 times 1, and this is 142 times 1, notice that the 142s are basically going to be canceling each other out. And then if we take a look at the 339s, well, 339 is just 339 times 1, and 339 times 1 up here. And sure enough, the 339s are going to cancel out. And notice that everything has canceled out except the 1s. 1 times 1 is 1 in the numerator, 1 times 1 is 1 in the denominator, and 1 over 1 just equals 1. So even though that started off looking bad, it didn't turn out to be so bad after all. The second problem, much the same way, but once we start looking at our denominators, we say, okay, so I'm subtracting. I need a common denominator. And notice this problem gave me common denominator. And not only is the denominators the same, but the numerators are the same as well. So when we go ahead and work this problem out, we know that the denominator is going to be 654, because that's the common denominator, so it's going to stay the same. And when I do the operation to the numerators, remember 597 minus 597, well, anything minus itself is just going to give me 0. And 0 divided by 654, just like 0 divided by anything, is 0. So these problems that started off looking pretty scary actually ended up being pretty nice. Let's just do a quick check on our calculator. So our first problem, remember, we had 142 divided by, or sorry, not divided by, but fractioned with 339. So 142 over 339, that's being multiplied by the same fraction, or by its reciprocal, 339, and then the fraction key, 142 for the denominator. And when we press enter, sure enough, there's that 1 we were expecting. With our other problem, let's go ahead and do the subtraction check. 597 over, so we hit the fraction key, 654, and then that's going to be, we're going to subtract from that 597, fraction key, 654, and when we press enter, there's the 0 we were looking for.